All right, Screencast Chapter 4, Section 1 and 2. This is going to be awesome. We've got Boston Massacre, talk about the power of the picture. We're going to talk about what happens as a result of the Tea Act, and then when they dumped a bunch of tea into the harbor, in which they call the party, which is kind of weird. The king puts in effect the Intolerable Acts on the colonies. We'll talk about all those. So first, just a little brief summary of the background. The reason why this is such a big deal to the English is because they are looking at the colonies as a way to make money. And as soon as the colonies start taking some of their business to other countries and trying to smuggle goods, you have a conflict between the two. The first one is going to be the Boston Massacre. Now, we watched the video footage of this in class today, and it basically comes down to this, and you need to write these two things down. Number one, the colonists did not want the troops there to police their every move, telling them where they can go, when they can go there, and patrolling the streets at all times. That's number one. Number two, like the bullet point says here, is a lot of the soldiers were taking jobs at a bunch of the Boston shipyards to make extra money when they weren't working as soldiers. Now, the question we want to ask is, why would these people be hired? Part of the reason is because they would take less money than what the colonists would take, so it was good financially for the business owners to hire the soldiers, even though they didn't really want to. So you saw the video clip from today about the soldiers sort of kind of felt like they were being threatened in that crowd outside the tavern. Now, a couple things to go into. If you want to write this stuff down, that'd be great. But you have the soldiers and the colonists gathering outside of a tavern, which I don't think that they were drinking, like Coca-Cola Classic inside this tavern. They come out of there late at night. They see redcoats there. They're mad that they're there in the first place. They were taking their jobs. You've got colonists throwing rocks and stones and clubs and stuff like that and yelling at them. And then you've got a bunch of nervous soldiers that have weapons and feel like they're being kind of surrounded by an angry mob. And that leads to, obviously, what you guys saw today. Someone fired a weapon and you have soldiers dead. And then there's this picture I drew. Oh no, this is the picture I took in class today of me hitting Grant and Sam in my 5th hour class when they weren't doing their homework. Let me find the real one here. Just hold on a second. Just take a second. Oh yeah, here's one. Okay, so here's the picture I painted after the Boston Massacre, which showed up in the newspapers that made its way through the colonies. And what this is this you have a bunch of unarmed, innocent-looking colonists that are being shot at by what the newspaper describes as the most powerful army in the world. So you can start to see how the people in the colonies and the newspapers are shaping this event. Now, you saw the angry mob threatening the soldiers, and you also saw the soldiers shooting at them. So it's your job to decide who was in the wrong. There isn't really a right or a wrong answer. It's just it's up to you to take the info and make a decision on what you think. Now, I want you to answer these questions in your notes tonight. If you open the newspaper and see the picture, what would you think? What story do you think went along with it? And why do you think that, and what impact did it have? It would be a good practice for you guys to answer those questions in your notes, okay? Remember, you can pause at any time to take better notes or rewind to hear it again. So the next one here, the Tea Party is in response to the Tea Act. England taxed colonial tea, and because they taxed another item, the colonists dressed as Native Americans stormed the ship. And so what you're going to want to write down from this is that the colonists went on and dumped $1 million worth. Make sure that you put that it's $1 million. So it's technically stealing, and then they destroyed the property. $1 million worth of tea. As soon as the tea hits the water, obviously it dissolves and it's no good. So clearly, when the news of this gets back to the king, he's going to be very upset. And here's his reaction. 4 steps to the Intolerable Acts. Step 1, close the port. And here's what you're going to want to write to go along with this. This is going to severely disrupt business that's going on in Boston. It's going to cost, and probably the most important thing, right? This is going to cost business owners in Boston a ton of money. Second thing, no meetings without British people present. They didn't want anybody planning any other protests or attacks or incidents like the Boston Tea Party without the British hearing about it. Third thing, they were going to take all British officials, soldiers, governors, tax collectors, all those guys who were charged with any crimes in the colonies were going to be transferred over to England for the trial. Obviously, the question there, why, is because they're not going to face a hostile jury in England that they would in the colonies. And the last one is the Quartering Act, which we talked about today, where you have to house and food and feed and clothe the colonists, or the soldiers. The colonists had to do that for the soldiers. The Quartering Act that we talked about today in class was in effect and then ended, and then the king put it back into effect after the Boston Tea Party. Okay, so those are the topics for the screencast. Please finish section 1 and section 2. Make sure that you're using the pause and the rewind to take good notes on the screencast. When you get to class tomorrow, more than likely you will have a quiz on some of the topics from section 1 and 2. See you tomorrow.